Greetings and welcome to the Midweek Refuel, where we seek out ancient wisdom simply because modern wisdom is a trackless roller coaster that spins wildly with no destination in sight. Modern thinkers love to dissect and understand each individual car on the track, but they fail to grasp the larger design of the track itself and the overall purpose of the ride. Without the wisdom of the creator, they're left analyzing parts of a chaotic nightmare system, never seeing how it all fits together or how it leads us to the true destination of life and eternity. If you're enjoying these refuels, would you take a moment and hit the like and subscribe buttons? It truly helps us share this message of hope and wisdom with more people. Your support means so much to us and keeps the Midweek Refuel going strong, so thank you so much. When I look at the universe around me, at how life came into being, how stars give their light, and how we live by the rhythms of sleep and wake, death and life, I am compelled in these moments to realize that there must be a God who brings order to chaos, and a God who gives purpose to all things. Sometimes at night, I try to comprehend the immense forces that are acting upon us. I don't know if you've ever sat and thought about it, but the Lovecraftian nightmare universe of absolutely dizzying proportions. I try to feel those forces. I want to feel those forces. I imagine that I can feel the spin of the earth. And I know I can't, but I imagine that I can. I imagine that I can feel the world itself spinning, and that world spinning around the sun, and I start getting dizzier. I dream that I can feel the sun spinning around the center of our galaxy, and the galaxy itself hurtling through the vastness of space. It's overwhelming when I imagine it well. A universe of dizzying proportions where forces far beyond my comprehension are constantly at work in the universe. I add that to the knowledge that there are planet-sized pieces of rock hurtling through space at what seem to be random angles, chaotic, unpredictable, and totally indifferent to our existence. In those moments, the universe feels less like a home and more like a precarious abyss, a place where order hangs by a thread. And in my dreams and in my imaginings, I break through the terrifying vastness of space, the nightmarish expanse of emptiness, the twirling voids of darkness surrounding us on every side, and I relax into a creator. I relax into a creator who holds it all together for me. And what was eldritch terror becomes ineffable delight. Without God, one must look into the abyss. And as Nietzsche's Insanity revealed, when you peer into the abyss peers back into you. The atheists of our day tell us that it is all a mathematical function, a cosmic accident that randomly popped into existence and is now spiraling out of control. They claim that we are sustained on the cusp of eternal nothingness. One day, they say, the universe will expand to the point that each individual atom is separated by an infinite void of darkness, an abyss of endless silence, lightless, dark, and cold, if even such terms could describe the remaining abyss. Nothingness. Empty. Nothing is nothing, and the human mind has real trouble imagining nothing. Try it. Not even the color black, not even darkness, not cold, nothing. For all their claims of rationality, even they must admit that the human mind struggles to conceive of nothingness. We are creatures that happen to be bound by the experience of being, of light and warmth, of life and purpose. The void that they describe is not only unimaginable. It is unbearable. If they are right, if they are accurate, if their worldview is true, then with nothing but holy sarcasm, I say, God help us all. For if they are correct, there is no God, there is no source of divine order, there is no bridge over the abyss, there is no dike to hold back Cthulhu or Leviathan. And these monsters of the deep will swallow everything that ever was, and nothing ever meant anything as it spirals down the gullet of chaos. Did I paint that well enough? And yet, even in the shadow of such a bleak and horrifying vision, there is something within us that resists it with everything we are. We recoil from the notion that everything spirals into chaos, that the monsters of the abyss will have their final say. Why? Well, simple. Because deep in our hearts, we sense a truth that contradicts this narrative of despair, don't we? We sense the truth of a designer, someone who not only built the track, but who rides with us through every twist and turn of it. Yes, the roller coaster is frightening. That's the fun of it, isn't it? The drops are steep, and the speed is dizzying. But those who trust the designer, who learn to let go of their fear, discover that the ride itself is thrilling. Well, the ride itself is even joyful. Without the designer, the roller coaster is a trackless mess careening towards disaster after disaster. But with him, it is a carefully crafted, engineered journey that leads us somewhere meaningful. In God's hands, the chaos has purpose. The fear gives way to delight, and the abyss becomes the setting for the ride of our lives. One of my favorite things to do in the whole world is talk young kids into getting on roller coasters. I have a lot of fun doing that. I love the fright in their eyes. Should I admit that? Maybe not. I love watching them try to build up the courage and step on board and trust that the designer knows what they are doing. I love watching them change their minds 1,000 times while we wait in line. I smile ear to ear as the bar comes down over our heads. And I notice that moment when they know that the time to change their minds has passed and the train is leaving the station. They grit their teeth, they shake, they straighten their backs, they tense up. And then that eternal moment of sitting atop the fan and the exhilarating moment when the weight of the cars tips over the edge and gravity does the rest. Speed and engineering take over. And then it happens. The screams begin, and their faces light up with a mixture of sheer terror and unexpected joy. By the time we hit the second turn, the tension starts to fade, replaced by something magical. Trust. The arms go up. Trust is in the track, in the design, and in the designer, and in the fact that the chaos is indeed going to be controlled. By the end of the ride, they are breathless, they are laughing, they are begging to do it again. What they once dreaded has become their very delight. Isn't that what life with God should be like? He invites us to step into the unknown, to trust him when fear grips our hearts and uncertainty looms large over our lives. The designer asks us in those moments to let go of control. Totally opposite of our nature, to stop fighting the ride and rather to embrace the adventure that he handcrafted for each and every one of us. In life, like on a roller coaster, the steep climbs and sharp drops can feel very, very overwhelming. I don't mean to imply they don't, they do. Lord knows I've seen enough of them. But with God, the track is never random. It's been designed with precision and with purpose, whether we understand it or not. What we fear most, the chaos, the descent into the unknown, is exactly where he shows us that the ride is safe in his hands. And just like those kids at the end of their first roller coaster, we discover that what we feared can become our greatest joy when we trust the one who built the ride. Rest in God is like rest in a roller coaster. You are there for the thrill, are you not? But you know the track is secure. The design is sound. And the ride? Well, the ride has eternal purpose. Even when the drops feel steep and the turns are sharp and the G-forces slam your body into the side of the car, you trust the designer to carry you through, don't you? Without that trust, you wouldn't get on. Without that trust, the ride becomes unbearable, a chaotic mess of fear and uncertainty. But when you lean into the experience, letting go of the need to control every moment and throw your arms up, you find yourself not only surviving the ride, but delighting in the ride. With God, rest is not about escaping the twists and turns of this life. It is about finding peace in the midst of them, knowing that He is in control. We need to return to this type of faith. For too long now, Christians have tried to appease those around us by acting as if the ride of life must always be smooth and predictable and prosperous. We've tried to explain away the sharp turns and the sudden drops, presenting a faith that is safe, sanitized, and free of any and all challenge. But this is not the faith that Jesus called me to. It's not the faith He calls you to. True faith doesn't demand that the track be easy. It demands that we trust the designer through every twist and every turn. God said, "Let there be order." And there was order. We do not live in a random world. We live in a coherent world that reveals itself to us logically as we explore it. It makes sense to us. Science has achieved many and wonderful and varied great things because our universe is orderly. And that from an orderly mind. This mind wishes to share that order with us, not merely as observers, but as participants. God's desire is not only to reveal the structure and beauty of His creation, but to invite us into a relationship with Him. A relationship where we can trust Him fully. His creation reflects His character. The Bible tells us that. Logical, purposeful, and filled with meaning. Science, discovery, and progress, all of them stem from the reality of a universe governed by an orderly God. Now, we turn to our reading for today to hear what Augustine has to say about entering into God's rest. We'll be reading chapters 4-8 of Book 13. But before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who has subscribed so far. A special welcome to some of the podcasters who have joined us recently. You're very welcome. Your support and engagement means very much to us. I also want to inform you about our other channel, the Weekly Jumpstart, where we share the sermon from Sunday's message at Remnant Church. And if you're looking for more encouragement and Bible teaching, be sure to check it out and subscribe there as well. You can find it under my main heading of Orthopraxy on the Rumble service. If these reflections are meaningful to you, and I do this hoping that they're meaningful to you, please take a moment to like and subscribe this channel. This simple action helps us share this message of hope and wisdom with even more and more people. Your support truly makes a difference, and we at Remnant thank you. What then would have been lacking to complete your good, even if those things had either not existed at all or had remained formless? You are yourself that good. It was not out of a need that you made those things, out of the fullness of your goodness. You restrained them and turned them back into form, not so as to complete your joy through them. You are perfect, and their imperfection was unpleasing to you. It is from you that they are perfected and become pleasing to you. Not as if you were imperfect and needed to be made perfect by their perfection. Your good spirit was moving over the face of the waters as if resting on them. For when your spirit is said to rest in something, then your spirit is making that thing rest in itself. It was your will, incorruptible, unchangeable, sufficient in itself for itself, that was moving on the face of the waters, the life that you had made. Living for that life is not the same as living blessedly. For though it lives, it is in a flux and clouded by its own darkness. It remains for that life to be turned back to him by whom it was made, and to become more and more alive at the fount of life, and in its light to see light, to be brought to perfection, enlightened, blessed. Behold, my God, I now see in a riddle the Trinity that you are. You, the Father, in the beginning of our wisdom, that is, your wisdom, born of you, equal to you, and co-eternal with you, namely your Son, made heaven and earth. I have spoken much of the heaven, of the earth's being invisible and without order, and of the abyss darkened as the spiritual mass, still without form, wandered and would have been cut off from you, had it not been turned back to him from whom came all life of any kind. How being enlightened by him, it gained distinct and fair form and became life, and how there came to be the heaven of heaven, which was later made between water and water. By the word God, I understood the Father who made all these things. By the words in the beginning, I understood the Son in whom he made them. And believing as I did that my God was a Trinity, I sought in his holy oracles, and lo, I found the Spirit moving above the waters. Behold the Trinity that is my God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the creator of the whole creation. But for what reason? O light that speaks the truth, for it is to you that I apply my heart, lest it teach me vanities. Dispel the darkness from my heart, and tell me, I beseech you, through our mother, love, tell me, I beseech you, for what reason does the Scripture wait until it has mentioned heaven and earth invisible and orderless, and the darkness above the abyss, before speaking of your Spirit? Was it because it was appropriate to hint at it in these terms, saying that it was moving over something? This could not be said unless it was first stated what your Spirit could be understood to be moving over. It was not moving over the Father, nor yet the Son, nor could it rightly be said to be moving over unless it was said what it was moving over. First, therefore, the Scripture had to speak of the thing the Spirit was moving over. Then the Spirit itself, which could not be described in any other terms than those of moving over. Why then is it inappropriate to indicate the Spirit in any terms other than those of moving over? Let him whose understanding permit him pursue the words of your apostle. Love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Let him follow the apostle as he teaches us about spiritual gifts and shows us the more excellent way of love, bending the knee before you for our sake, that we may learn the more excellent knowledge of the love of Christ. From the very outset, then, the more excellent was moving over the waters. To whom and how shall I explain how the burden of concupiscence drags us down into the sheer abyss, and how we are raised up by the love which comes through your Spirit who moved over the waters? To whom and how shall I tell it? It is no physical place in which we are drowned and undrowned. What is more like and what is more unlike? It is our own attitudes, it is our loves, it is our uncleanness of spirit that flows downwards in their love for the anxieties of life. It is your holiness that lifts us up with love for a life free from anxiety, so that we may lift up our hearts where your Spirit moves over the waters, that we may come to that more excellent rest when our soul has crossed the waters that are without substance. Angels would surely have been carried away by this downward flux. Man's very soul would surely have been carried away. Between them, they would have revealed the abyss into which the entire spiritual creation had fallen in all its darkness. But from the first you had said, let there be light, and there was light. And everything in your heavenly city that had understanding obeyed and clung to you, resting in your spirit, which moves unchangingly over all that is changeable. Had you not done so, the very heaven of heaven would in itself have been a dark abyss. But now it is light in the Lord. Wretched and restless indeed are those spirits which are carried away by this downward flux, revealing the depths of their darkness, stripped as it is of the raiment of your light. But through that very restlessness, you give abundant proof of the greatness of your rational creation, which is unsatisfied and cannot know blessedness and rest in anything less than you, and hence not even in itself. For it is you, O Lord, who will lighten our darkness. From you arise our raiment, and our darkness shall be as the noonday. Give yourself to me, my God. Restore yourself to me. Behold, I love you. If that is not enough, let me love you more strongly. I cannot measure and know how much love I lack. How much more would be enough to make my life run to your embrace and not turn aside until it was hidden in the hidden depth of your countenance. This alone I know, that without you, it is not well with me, not only outwardly, but also within myself, and that all my wealth that is not my God is poverty. G.K. Chesterton once wrote, "The more I considered Christianity, the more I found that while it had established a rule and order, the chief aim of that order was to give room for good things to run wild." Corrie ten Boom wrote, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." And in his book, The Divine Conspiracy, by a man named Dallas Willard, wrote, "The world is a perfectly safe place for us to be, as long as we are in God's hands," unquote. So today, I would like to encourage you to have a wild life, a free life, a life that is bound within the rules and orders of the Christian faith. These fences are for your protection. They are there so that when the day comes, you will have your seatbelt on, you will have your shoulder harness locked into position, and you will have all of your valuables stored safely. For if you don't, the ride might throw you into oblivion before you ever had a chance to experience the joy and thrill of it all. The rules and orders that Christianity establishes are not there to restrict us, but rather to protect us and allow us to fully embrace the life God has designed for each and every one of us. When the day comes and the ride of life takes a sharp turn, takes steep drops, those boundaries, those seat belts, those harnesses, that carriage, they keep us secure. They ensure that we can face the unexpected without fear and find delight in even the most daunting of moments. Without them, the ride becomes chaos, and chaos brings destruction. It brings worse. Chaos brings insanity. But with them, we can lean into the experience. We can trust the designer and live with a confidence that no matter how wild the ride gets, it will always lead us safely to the destination God has planned for us. On my favorite roller coaster of all time, called the Loch Ness Monster, many of you have probably ridden it at Busch Gardens in Virginia. I know it's old, I know it's a dated roller coaster, but it's still my favorite simply out of nostalgia. It would dive down into this dark abyss about halfway through the ride. Strobe lights would confuse and disorient you as it spiraled down into the darkness, and the sound of people screaming would reveal that you were riding the very coils of the serpent himself. Won't it be wonderful when we attain to the perfection and order that God wills for us, and in that moment, knowing as we are known, and by knowing also seeing, and by seeing We notice the flashes of lightning, and we see that we have been riding the scales of Leviathan the whole time. The eldritch forces of this universe controlled and subdued for our pleasure. What a day that will be. So, dear Christian, you have been standing in line, debating what to do. The train has arrived at the station, and you're next. I'm getting on. I like being busy, and I want to see the wonders that God has in store for me. Do you hear that? The angels of heaven are escorting you now. Please fill in all the available seats. Single riders to the left, please. The kid behind you asks, "Does this thing go upside down?" You bet it does. It goes upside down, loop-de-loop, and it even has a surprise plunge into the lair of Leviathan himself. Ask Pinocchio. "Are you sure this is safe?" asked someone. "Does the conductor know what he's doing?" asked a snarky kid named Edmund with stains of Turkish delight on his chin. To which the friendly-looking man in the Oxford style says, "Safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he is good. He's the king, I tell you." A large red-headed man with a personality that nearly knocks you over shouts over everyone and says, "Fairy tales do not tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children that dragons can be killed." I'll go one further. I think dragons can be ridden. Not just any dragon, mind you, but the dragon of dragons, the Leviathan himself. He who was once the terror of the deep, the embodiment of the chaos, now becomes our chariot, our steed. With Christ as our guide, we climb aboard, gripping tight, not with fear, but with exhilaration. We soar through the heavens, not escaping the world, but plunging deeper into its heart, into the very whirlwind of God's creative power. The ride is wild, it is unpredictable, it is breathtaking. But with every twist and every turn, we discover a deeper truth, that even in the chaos, there is order. Even in the darkness, there is light. Even in the abyss, there is joy. For Christ has tamed the dragon, harnessed the storm, and transformed the void into a playground for his beloved children. So hold on tight, dear friends, and let the ride begin. For in this wild, untamed adventure, we discover the fullness of life, the depth of God's love, and the unshakable truth that Christ is King. Hail to the King.